Hello everyone. Today we have a video that's long overdue. I'm here with a special guest that he has not been on the channel yet. Want to say hello?
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. Looking forward to our topic today.
Today we're going to be talking about what you can see on your screen, the Switch 2. So, it's been now 2-3 weeks. How long has it been? Like I think 3 weeks now, right?
Yeah, since it was first announced during the Switch to the thing that they do, forgot the name of it. What's it called again?
Nintendo Direct.
The Nintendo Direct. Thank you so much. Definitely exciting. Definitely looking forward to it. We're gonna go over the positives and some criticisms that we may have, but it's that. You know, I think it's overall positive, right?
It's pretty much positive. We'll also be addressing like you guys' thoughts and the community's thoughts so far. Like people saying it's going to be the next Wii U. But let's just do a brief overview. I'm gonna pop up the video real quick of the main part, which is just this. Take a second to watch it real quick.
Hmm. Yep. I just love how they did that coloring right there. That transition. It,
It looks
it,
good. I don't know how I feel about the colors. I prefer like plain black, but
no,
or
no,
like a
no.
white.
No. I'm talking about the transition in the video,
Oh yeah,
like how
no, the video is
the,
incredible.
it reminded me of like Splatoon a little bit. When you're playing Splatoon.
Yeah. So here it's like the huge thing of the console, the mouse controls. Now, as we can see in just the photo, the Joy-Cons are clearly different. And a couple of my concerns I've seen YouTubers talk about have been, what if this little chip snaps? And all these little stuff with the Joy-Cons is like pretty scary because we don't want another how we had the what was it, Joy-Con drift. We don't want
Yeah.
that to happen with the mouse and having the Joy-Con snap and it just breaks completely. You know? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think that Nintendo learns from its mistakes. And I think that they really have come a long way when it comes to quality control and making sure that they are on top of their game when it comes to it. I'm sure that it left a black eye when with the whole drifting. At first, they were denying it, then they admitted it, and then they started to resolve it. So I'm sure that they learned their lessons on you know what to do and what not to do. So I think this one coming out has been really well tested, and I really don't expect anything too crazy from happening unless something really far left, like the red ring of death from Xbox or some crazy stuff like that happens that is out of the foreseeable future.
For sure, for sure. Now, besides the Joy-Cons, of course, we also have features that we've all been wanting. Now, let me see if there's a page for it. Alright, I'll just pull up this or more. We have the 120 FPS. This was the biggest curveball I've ever seen. Now, having 120 FPS means that this thing is gonna have clearly capabilities to play Elden Ring, Cyberpunk, like the games that they have already shown us, which I never thought that could happen. Because in a world that we have Steam Decks, ROG Allies, MSI Claws, Legion Goes, I really thought they're not even gonna dip into that because it's gonna be more competition for them, and they just gotta stay the traditional handheld, not the computer handheld. But what they're doing is a complete twist that I did not see coming. What do you think?
I think that they see the competition, and one thing that Nintendo has always been good at is knowing where the culture of the gamer is heading next. You know, when everybody else was going about graphics, they went into the casual gamers, and then the pandemic happened, and everybody became a casual gamer, which made the Switch blow up dramatically. Before that, it made the Nintendo, 3DS blow up. You couldn't find them in stores, back in 2019, 2020. And then when the Switch launched, you just could not find it at all, period. So I remember having to wait in line outside, just to get a pre-order for it on the day that it was announced. So I definitely see where this is coming from, and I definitely have faith that they know that we're moving more towards the handheld environment, especially with computer level technology in the hands. And I think that's why they decided to make these upgrades like this.
For sure, for sure. Now, you mentioned the pre-orders, and we'll get to that later, but we're gonna talk more about the device. As you can see, we're on the Nintendo website right now. The kickstand, major, huge improvements. Now, let's see if they speak of. Oh, this is exactly what I wanted to speak about. People are complaining about how they're charging for everything, and one of the most controversial things is going to be game chat. The fact they're introducing a whole button and they're making people pay for it after March 31st, that's crazy. What's your thoughts?
Well, I definitely understand that they have to make their money. Usually companies when they sell handhelds, they sell them at a loss. Especially because they're trying to make up the money back up with the games. And I think that they follow this model, as every other company does. I like that they did not lock the functionality with just their camera because they could have, like, let's be honest, guys and gals, they could have just locked that in just for their own camera. But no, according to the specifics, you can use any USB-C camera and you'll be fine. Like if they really were worried about wanting to just make money and just monetize it, they would have just locked it. Look at what Apple did with the Lightning charger, and now all of a sudden we're all going to USB-C. But before then, they always had their own custom level charger.
Hmm.
So and then look at what Sony did with the headsets. For the longest time, we could only use Sony branded headsets. So definitely they could have been a lot more money hungry with this.
They could have, they could have. But it's the fact that this button, we click it and it's gonna take us to a purchase screen. I really don't like that idea. Like, if you're gonna pay 450 for a console that has a whole feature and a whole button dedicated to it, just so you can't use it, that doesn't seem right, honestly. But that's my opinion. Some people may feel different about it.
Right. And it's okay to have differences of opinions. It's all about how you go about it. Everyone can get up here, make their own video, make their own opinions. And honestly, I'm looking forward to having a nice, fruitful, and contentful discussion, within the comments so that we can have some dialogue on it. And I myself will go in there and will reply to you all if I have to, just to keep dialogue happening. It's what makes us humans, being able to express our voices and being able to see our point of view on it and being able to express it. That's what it's all about. Where the issue comes is when we take offense into each other's opinions, and that's not what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to hype it up because we're both very excited about this product coming out.
Exactly. Now, let's move along for this. We also have other stuff that's less, like, how do I say this? Controversial. Like the 256 storage. That's huge. People may think it's not that much, but to be fair, I've never had a Nintendo handheld with that much storage besides putting an SD card in it. So the fact that we're gonna be able to have multiple games on a basic Switch, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know what I mean, Forcels?
Yeah, definitely. I get where you're coming from, and I like the whole idea of being able to have a base set larger memory, but also being able to expand it with memory card. I, for one, felt it was a little controversial with the formatting, but I also understand why they did it. They need faster speeds because technology is moving up.
The
So I,
screens, they need to
right,
refresh fast enough.
exactly. So I get it. Sometimes, they have to make, compromises, and I think that was one of them that they had to use a higher speed rate of memory cards. And the funny thing about the memory card market is that you just gotta wait a few months, and the prices will go down. Like for example, the 2 terabyte, micro SD that came out, the other day. The other day it was for $250, but a month later, after coming out, 2 months later, it was on sale for 175. So definitely, you just gotta wait for the market to catch
It's a
up.
wait. It's just a wait. Now, there's other things like the backwards compatibility is humongous. Cause I'm happy that I'm not gonna have to rebuy Zelda, um, Mario Kart just so I can play it on the Switch too. which is humongous. That's great. That's great. Honestly, it's perfect. It's like the 3DS and the DS. But I wonder how they're gonna transition smoothly because I have this like gut feeling that the first year or two they're gonna be making like 10 games. Out of 10 games, 5 of them are gonna be Switch 2 exclusives, causing people to be upset that they just don't feel comfortable upgrading to the Switch 2 because of the price points. You know, Force Souls?
That's definitely a very valid point. You know, and I see that happening. You know, but again, you just got to keep in mind what you are out here to do. You're out here to invest in a console that you know is gonna be good in the long run. You know, it's not gonna be. You know, I'm about to age myself, but it's not gonna be like a Panasonic, console. Have you even heard of the brand Panasonic making a console? No, because they didn't last. You know, so Nintendo's a known name brand, and Switch is a known named brand of the brand. So I don't see it going left again unless some crazy thing happens where Sony drops a new handheld and it's like beyond this. You know, you heard it here first. It might happen, but I don't see it, especially because of the full library of games and the backwards compatibility.
For sure. Now, people have always been making the Wii U comparisons, which I think we briefly talked of, like we just said the name. But I I'm a firm believer it's not gonna be like the Wii U. Honestly, with a console that has all these features, that it's not completely throwing away what the Switch was, like what the Wii U did. Because the Wii U, if you think about it, integrated a whole new aspect of playing it, and that threw off everyone's balance. This is the same aspect of playing it, beside the fact you could go on a desk and use a mouse. That's it. That's all they did. It's not a whole new way you could play it, you know?
Yeah, since the Nintendo 64, Nintendo has been playing with peripherals or with innovative ways of changing things about how people interact with their games. And you know what? Even back with Nintendo, when they had the Rob robot that came with the Nintendo system, the special edition Rob, they always were trying to find innovative ways so that you can interact with your consoles. And that goes into the Wii. You know how it had the Joy Cons and how you can bowl and it could catch your expressions and stuff like that. And then they moved it up with the Wii U with the handheld, like Saver said here, and how that was innovative and you can have your own personal screen and stuff like that. And they just kept building off of that. They kept building off of that with the Switch, which is a combination of both the handheld plus the Joy Cons, which turns it into a handheld and a console, which is brilliant when you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. And now with this one, with the whole mouse, interaction things, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be more things that come out along the way for this console from an interactive process because that is what Nintendo's known for.
For sure.
Nintendo is known for doing those type of things.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I have to give a huge tips for beat 'em ups for what I'm about to say. All these companies did it after they went into the Wii U, they lost a lot of money. And then, quote unquote, from beat 'em ups, they were scared to try that with the Switch, because what if it was another flop? But now, with the success of the Switch, people are all the companies want to come back on the Switch and they want to get their games to be day one releases. Honestly, thank you to Beat 'em Ups. He's an awesome YouTuber. You should check him out for sure. Like for real, check him out. He's really good. You probably heard of him though. Now, you we also got to realize Nintendo has always taken risk. They were the first people. Well, I don't know if they were the first, but they were. They made the first Game Boy that folded just so you can have an easier, compact way just to put it in your pocket and the screen will get scratched up. The Game Boy SP. Game Boy Advance SP, one of my favorite Game Boys. That's a risk. They don't know if people are gonna like that. They don't know if people are gonna like the smaller size. Now let's do some more recent stuff. The Nintendo Switch. They didn't know if people would like detachable controllers. They didn't. They had no idea because they've never done that before, and people loved them, as we could see, because people started modding them, customizing them, and just having good times with each other. It was like the Wii U, a party console because of that. Not the Wii U, the Wii. My bad.
No, I see where you're coming from, and it's definitely has been a learning experience for everybody involved, from the developers to the actual hardware developer creators. So one thing that we know is that Nintendo is going to have your back. Nintendo is definitely going to definitely be there for you, and they're definitely going to have that going for you. So I definitely am looking forward to it, and I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Now we're gonna take a quick break about talking about the Nintendo Switch to talk about our website. We recently added the Game Boy Color and oh, and Atomic Purple Joy-Cons. We know the Switch is coming to an end. That's why we have the Atomic Purple Joy-Cons. They're pretty much, we cleaned out all their stuff. They're brand new Joy-Cons. They work perfectly, and you have a D-pad. Honestly, I couldn't recommend buying one more. I'm actually considering modding myself a pair too. Let us know in the comments if you would like a short form video of this, because we do have videos of us making all these. So let us know. Alright, well, back to the Switch 2. There's big controversy of the games and their upgradings. How you can upgrade your Breath of the Wild for a small price. Well, we don't know the exact price. I'm assuming it's going to be small. But some games, like Scarlet and Violet, are going to get free console upgrades. What's your thoughts, Forcels?
I you know it's not the first company to do it. Okay, Sony did it with the PlayStation 4 going on PS5, and they did it with the PS3 going on the PS4. It's not the first time that they do it. For freak's sakes, we had Grand Theft Auto 5 that came out for the PS3. That game came out 3 generations ago and is still being remade. So why aren't people complaining about that? Whatever. I welcome it. As long as you're adding a feature to it, as long as I can see the graphic difference, as I want at least that. Either add more content or increase the graphics on it, and I'll be happy with paying a little bit extra to the people that redevelop the game.
And we've seen they're already adding content like Kirby's Forgotten Lands. There's a whole new map. Honestly, I'm not familiar with that game, but like I haven't purposely gone out to play it. But a whole new thing is pretty cool. And with Zelda, you can see everything in 4K now. That's incredible. I've never thought I would be able to see Breath of the Wild in 4K. It's quite incredible what they're doing.
Definitely, what they're doing is amazing work. I love the innovation. I love the new items, and honestly, I can't wait to get my hands on a pre-order. And that's crazy when you say that about the pre-order. Like, I want my hands on a pre-order. I'm not even saying about the console. I just want the freaking pre-order.
Now, thank you for bringing this up, because there's an even bigger elephant in the room. I know I've been throwing that around a lot, but there is. The pre-order was supposed to come out April 9th. I was so excited. I was about to skip school just to go to the GameStop. But then we found out, due to tariffs, that Nintendo was gonna have to push them further and they'll tell us the date later. Now, it bummed me out a little bit, but the whole situation seems that we may be getting it quicker, especially that there's been talks for a May 8th. Forcels, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so there's been talks about May 8th being the release at the Nintendo store, where they will be sending invitations to the Nintendo people. I'm sorry, to the Nintendo members. Basically, what they're saying is that they're trying to avoid scalpers, and what they're doing that is that you need to have certain amount of hours of play
50
at
hours.
50 hours with the Nintendo, account that you registered to get the pre-order, and you also need to have it for more than 12 months, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And those are going to be the first people to get the invitation to get the pre-order. And I honestly love that system. I think it's very innovative, and it just goes back to how they are in their thought process and in trying to keep things, unique and different. Without innovation, we don't move forward, and if we don't move forward, we become stagnant, and we just do the same thing over and over again. Which that's not what I see happening here. Just because it has the number two as in part two, or it's the second one, doesn't mean that it's a remake or anything of that matter. But yes, I definitely am looking forward to the pre-orders. Hopefully, coming out to at least the Nintendo members on that day.
And let's talk about the price point of the console here, because we talked about some financing purposes of all this, like how people are confused about all the charges and all the expenses for no reason. I said financing. I know it's financial. I'm very sorry. But look, for $450, I'll be real with you guys. I'm willing to pay $550 for the base console. I know that's controversial, but for what they're doing, that's like the price of an MSI Claw or OG Ally, and for something that games are gonna be purposely optimized just for that console, that's a valid price point. Honestly, what's your
Yeah,
thoughts, Crystals?
I definitely see it as a valid price point. I don't mind it at all, even if it goes up a little bit. Even from the other price point. Inflation is a thing. Prices are gonna go up. I remember the first Game Boy coming out for $99, the Game Boy Pocket, or not the first one, but the Pocket, or it going up to 200, and then it's slowly increasing. Then I remember the PlayStation Portable being 250, 200. So it's bound to happen. So whether it's an increase because of tariffs or whether it's an increase because of inflation or a little bit of both, it's just natural order of things. So what else can we do?
And we also gotta remember what happened with the 3DS. I Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like 350 or $300, and they dropped that to like 150. And then if you bought it at that full price, you were rewarded. You were given a gift just to like compensate you. Now I do see something like this happening in the future if we get like usual a decrease in inflation and stuff in the world just changes because that's what life is. I
Yeah,
do see us like going through that. So
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I myself collect Nintendo Switches. I have at least 5 or 6 different models still sealed in their original packaging because I believe that these consoles are going to go up in value over time. And sure enough, I already have some that have gone up in value. Some others, like the Animal Crossing, has stayed about the same. I think now it's starting to go up in value a little bit. But there's been other ones like the Let's Go Pikachu and the Let's Go Eevee one that I could not even find for my own collection at a decent price. So definitely, it's rare to find, video games consoles as an investment. But this one definitely looks like it's gonna head that way too. So grab your hands on the Switch One model while you still can, and also grab your hands on the Switch Two model. Especially when it comes out. Because they're both gonna be hot.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I got my 3DS and I really loved it. Now, when I saw that I was going up in value the slightest, I sold it immediately. But I did a stupid mistake of selling at GameStop. So here's what happened. I only got $44 in store credit, which sucked. But then I found myself wanting it again. So I bought one at for $200 right when they started going back up again. And now I will say, every time I find a 3DS, I buy one as long as it's a good price. For example, I was up north for a little bit. I found a pink 3DS in box, almost mint condition, for I think $110. And right now I could sell it for like 300 just because it's such good condition.
That's
So
amazing.
just
That's amazing.
honestly, my advice is if you can buy like the Animal Crossing Switch. You can find some opened on eBay for like $200. And it's Animal Crossing. That's a big title. Everyone likes Animal Crossing. And I hate
Yes,
to
they
say
do.
it, it's one of the best games ever.
Yes,
I
it
would
is.
buy it. Just buy it, hold on to it. It may hurt your pocket for a little bit, but in the long run, you'll it'll be good. And you always reflect on it because when you have your Switch 2, you're not gonna be saying, I want to go back to the Nintendo Switch 1. No, it's backwards compatible. You're fine. The Switch 2 is gonna go through the same thing after the next Nintendo console. So honestly, we got very sidetracked about talking about resale, but something good
Well,
to add into this video.
we love our resale.
Yeah, yep, yep. Same thing happens with Game Boys, honestly. So, and you know that's the main focus of this channel. Just Nintendo,
Yeah.
video games, and the best part is we just have fun, honestly.
Yes, yes, we do.
So, we would like to thank you very much for listening and watching our video. Please check out our website It's gonna be in the link in the description. Hope you guys have a great rest of your days.
Good day, everybody.
See ya.